Welcome to the Wandiology podcast, where we learn and demystify astrology as a tool to gain a deeper understanding of our energetic signatures and our interactions with the world. Today, join me for a solo episode where we'll be looking at Taurus through the houses. So, for those who didn't watch last time, we talked about houses, and I gave an analogy where when you have, for example, a play, you have the actors. So the actors are planets, right? Then you have the houses. The houses are the scenes in which the actors, which is the planets, play or act, right? Or perform. Then we have the aspects. The aspects are the ways in which the planets relate to each other, right? And then we finally have the signs, and the signs are, in this analogy, the way the planets or the actors express their energy, right? So when you have that analogy, it's easy to see what the houses are. So basically, the houses are the themes of life, right, in astrology, the areas of life. So every house represents an area of life. And in this episode, we'll be looking at how Taurus manifests through the houses, rather. So we'll start with Taurus in the first house. So the first house is an angular house, and what that means is that it's visible, right? It's one of the most visible houses. It's the house of self, appearance, perception, basically how we present to the world, right? And we talked about Taurus being ruled by Venus, right? The planet of love, the planet of sensuality, of beauty, of values. And so this gives us an extremely sensual person, a practical person, a dependable person. Someone with a Taurus rising is down to earth, they're sensual, they are simple. And I don't mean simple in a bad way, I mean simple in that they gravitate towards natural things. So very minimalistic makeup, very minimalistic like aesthetic, but they're still Venus ruled, so they're beautiful in a very simple way, right? And they're also calm and sensual. They can appear a little bit boring to other people, right? Because these are people who are very confident. They have a very quiet confidence within themselves. They like what they like, they don't like what they don't like, and they're a fixed sign. So it's very hard to kind of change their opinions like that on things unless you're making sense to them, right? So here comes the stubbornness and the practicality of the sign, but also they are charming, they're soothing, they can indulge in the senses. So they love to eat, they love to probably be touched, like engage all their senses, right? Can be lustful, like anything you think. When I talk about the senses, just look at it along a spectrum, right? And so that is how Taurus will manifest in the first house. So moving on to the second house. The second house rules over finances, value, money. It rules over the things we value or the things we possess, right? And so naturally, Taurus falls here because it's the second sign of the zodiac. We move on to the second house. And in the second house, money falls here, finances, what we possess. And naturally, Taurus falls here as it is the second sign in the zodiac, right? And so that practicality, that sensibility, and that value mindset really goes cohesively with this sign. This is a sign or rather a placement that seeks out comfort, right? Through money, through finances. So these are the people who crave financial stability. They will work towards having a steady income. They can be a bit possessive, right? Um, they really value material possessions. So you have to make sure that if you have Taurus in the second house, you're very cautious, or you have a balance when it comes to money and finances. But this placement helps with kind of going after material possessions. You value beautiful and luxurious things. Just don't forget to be grounded, right? Okay, that's Taurus in the second house. Then we have Taurus in the third house. So the third house rules over communication, coordination, right? How we relate the past to the present to the future. That thought process, right? The third house is also about siblings, it's about relatives. Actually, it's about siblings who are your relatives, right? And then it's also about neighbors, right? So I want to make that clear, siblings first. And so having Taurus, this stable, stubborn, fixed, dependable sign in the third house, can give you a very stubborn communicator, right? Someone who is very fixed within their opinions. This can also give you someone who takes time with their communication and with their listening. I've found that people with Taurus in the third house, and also people with Mercury in Taurus, are very patient listeners. They give people the time to express themselves, and they don't really jump at expressing themselves. But when they do, it'll be something that they really believe in. So they can also be deeply opinionated, that is, fixed in their opinions and what they think, right? Yeah. Moving on to Taurus in the fourth house. So the fourth house rules over home, your home environment, family, your roots, right? And here, someone with Taurus in the fourth house craves stability and comfort within their home life. So these are people who will do whatever it takes to create a very stable home life. They love indulging in beautiful things, art, music. So those are some of the things you might incorporate into your home environment, because this helps you feel secure and at peace. You want your home environment to look good. These are people who curate aesthetics in their home very beautifully. They also like to spoil their families and their loved ones, spoil in that, buy them beautiful things, make them feel beautiful. And also, they're very calm and grounded. But this can also make a strict parent, right? Because they want to really curate the environment and they're fixated on doing that, whatever it takes. So you have to let people also kind of have their space, right? And indulge in the things they also want to indulge in. But also you enjoy like the laughter, the cooking, um, and doing that together in your familial space. Taurus in the fifth house. The fifth house rules over romance, pleasure, art, or rather creativity. Also, the people you're attracted to, the people you want to date, or rather the qualities of the people you want to date. And having Taurus here, it being the most sensual sign, these people crave a sensual romance, right? Um, they are attracted to indulgent people, people who don't overcomplicate things, and they find the material world very, very exciting. Um, they indulge in hobbies like cooking, painting, making music. They derive pleasure from luxury, right? These are people who want to indulge every second. They want to have fun. Um, they're very slow moving people as well. So they want to take their time and really indulge. They will not mind a possessive love interest, right? Because they want to be, I don't want to say owned, but they do like that possessiveness sometimes, right? And actually, something I wanted to mention was that the fourth house that we looked at was also an angular house, right? So the first house and the fourth house, the angular houses, right? And so we move on to the sixth house, right? So Taurus in the sixth house. The sixth house rules over our daily habits, our routines, our health, right? And so you have Taurus here, a sign that is very slow moving, it's very sensual, it's indulgent, they like to take their time. So you have people who maybe in their daily habits, they're quite slow moving, even sometimes in their work, in what they have to do day to day, they can be very slow moving, and their peers or their colleagues may perceive them as such. But this is because they love to take their time. So these are people who have the follow through for the projects that they do daily. There are people who also don't really, I they don't prefer very fast paced exercising, right? So there are people who just like slow moving, intentional things, probably taking up meditation or yoga or very intentional exercise might be good for you, right? That's Taurus in the sixth house of your daily habits. And then we move on to Taurus in the seventh house. So the seventh house is also an angular house, and it represents your romantic partnerships, your business partnerships, and it's basically the qualities you look for in your significant other, right? And it may not necessarily mean your significant other, but it's the qualities you crave in them. And someone with Taurus in the seventh house might crave or attract a dependable person, a steady person, someone who is very indulgent, someone who loves aesthetics, right, and beauty, and indulging in the senses. They also may be someone who, or they may attract someone who loves to build wealth, right? Someone who is practical, someone who is steady, can also attract a slow moving person. Um, Taurus in the seventh is just giving practicality and dependability and slow movement within your significant other. Okay. So Taurus in the eighth house. The eighth house rules over sex, it rules over taboos, it rules over shared finances. So things like debt, things like taxes, right? Money you owe or are owed, right? And so having Taurus, a very practical sign here, a very slow moving sign, might mean um, you take time to transform and change, because the eighth house is also about transformation and change, because it's kind of like a Pluto ruled, a Plutonian house, right? And so you might be very slow to change. You might be very interested in the physical or sensual aspect of sex. You might not be very experimental in bed, right? You might also not be that giving when it comes to sharing your finances with your loved ones, right? Um, yes, so that's Taurus in the eighth house. Moving on to Taurus in the ninth house. The ninth house rules over philosophy, education, long distance travel, religion. So it's kind of like mental pursuits, right? And having Taurus in the ninth house, a sign of sensuality. You need to prove theories in the physical sense, right? You may not be truly a spiritual person, right? Because Taurus is also very extremely practical. So a lot of times they will need that evidence of why should I believe in this, right? And so they're very drawn to practical beliefs. They can be a bit passive when seeking out new mental pursuits and new ideas because they're geared towards seeing the evidence first, right? And with spirituality, that's kind of like the opposite of what it should be. It's about faith, right? And so the catch here is to learn to work on your faith, essentially, right? But you'll be very good at the practical things, the practical beliefs, right? The facts. If you can't see something, you probably won't believe it. And so that's Taurus in the ninth house. Then moving on to Taurus in the 10th house. The 10th house is also an angular house. So the 10th house is the house of career, of public image, of reputation, and essentially legacy, right? And so, for example, I have a Taurus midheaven. So that means I have Taurus on the cusp of my 10th house, right? And so these are people who love building wealth. They're very practical in building wealth. They're people who will probably please their superiors in the workplace, and they are very practical workers, but they also love indulging in beautiful things. So people who are in the beauty spaces, the art space, the art space rather as career. So yeah, they indulge in the beautiful things, in art, in aesthetics. So that may be one of your career paths. Okay. Taurus in the 10th is also someone who is very motivated by money. So a lot of times they might not go for what they're passionate about as opposed to what will provide them with a very stable, practical, luxurious lifestyle. So these are people who will have excessive displays of wealth, right? And so moving on to Taurus in the 11th house. The 11th house rules over friends, friend groups, communities, humanitarianism, and having Taurus here. So you'll attract friends who inspire you to enjoy the finer things in life. You will work hard to maintain lifelong friendships because having Taurus a very stable and dependable sign. These are people who don't like to lose their connections and their friends. And so you are very nurturing, right? Um, they also might attract a lot of chill and mature people. They also do prefer like a tight knit group of friends. They might love to indulge and lounge and do lazy quote unquote things with their friends. So you just want to keep the same stability and image within your friendships for as long as you can, right? That's Taurus in the 11th house. Making new friends will kind of be out of the comfort zone for you, right? But not to say that it's not good or needed, okay? Then finally, we have Taurus in the 12th house. So the 12th house rules over spirituality. The ninth is religion, the 12th is spirituality, the hidden things, mental health, hospitals, yes, and things of the sort. So Taurus in the 12th, this gives a very dependable, practical person in matters to do with spirituality, right? And all these things. And so this is someone who might have pleasures that they don't know of really, because a lot of times they won't seek them out or they hide them. Okay. Then they can be stuck in their own ways. They can have a bit of a hard time recognizing their patterns, because the 12th house is about hidden things. So it's your subconscious, the things that you really don't know about. And if you really don't seek these things out and you don't work to change them, for a Taurus person, because they're so fixed in the energy, it could be a bit hard to recognize, okay, this is what I need to work on or whatever. But they do have a strong need for stability, right? But because they're so practical, it will take time for them to reach that stability, okay? But rest assured, they will. So when these people are comfortable, relaxed, in the right headspace, right? They're very hardworking, they're very indulgent, and they're very calming people. They crave peace. So techniques like therapy, like meditation, that might be really good for people with Taurus in the 12th. Getting out of your comfort zone and seeking the things that will build your peace and comfort might be really good for you. So, yes, and that's it to do with Taurus through the houses. I hope that was clear, and you can find me on my socials at the Wandiology podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And you can find me on at Wandiology on all socials. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Tumblr, wherever. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode, which is the Gemini episode with a very special guest. Bye.